On June 27th, 1995, our first day in Toronto from Montreal, Eddie was the first person we met. Looking back on our first encounter, it wasn't our best moments. We were moving into our condo. No electricity in the building, no elevator service, recently paved unloading zone, and nowhere to put our furniture sitting in the moving van. Eddie suggested we leave our furniture in the moving room. Well, needless to say, that didn't sit well with me. Now, fast forward 25 years. I bless that day because Eddie and his wife Alba became our family away from home. To know Eddie, all you had to do was observe him. It was thanks to Mark, our son, that we started to know Eddie. Eddie soon realized that Mark, age 10 at the time, needed something to do, so he told Mark that he would give him a nickel for every empty pop can he found while riding his bike. At first, Mark rode through the park, but, like Eddie, thinking of smarter ways to do things, went to the neighboring buildings and took the pop cans right out of their recycling bins and then went to claim his money with Eddie. That was the start of a very long friendship. A day didn't go by that we didn't see Eddie and Alba as we lived directly above them, 4 floors up. If we weren't physically together, we found ways of lowering a basket to their apartment to exchange coffee or goodies. Since neither one of our families had relatives in Toronto, we celebrated everything together. Birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, weddings, etc., etc., etc. Now, Eddie wasn't a churchgoer, but a very spiritual man. He always insisted that my husband Lino say grace when we shared a meal. He saw beauty in all that God created. He cared for the flowers and the trees and the animals, especially his beloved Gingy. He took pleasure in looking at his collectibles, whether it was his brass ornaments, or his stamps, or his coins, or so many other things. Another great pleasure was conversing with people, but regardless of the subject, his sentences were never complete unless Alba's name was mentioned. He adored his wife. He often willingly and spontaneously said he would marry her over and over again. They were 2 bodies, but 1 soul, since their marriage on August 24th, 1963. It goes without saying that Alba equally adored her husband. How many people would sleep on a hospital floor so as to stay by their husband's side? During his rehabilitation after one of his many surgeries, Alba set herself down on a hard, cold hospital floor to stay by his side. The devotion they felt for each other was obvious and endless. Eddie was also a very generous and giving man. His master trade skills were offered to anyone that needed his help. He could work miracles with a piece of lumber and some nails. You never saw Eddie sitting idle. He always had something to do around the building or at his home in Pola or building birdhouses. That can probably be seen throughout Toronto. His generosity wasn't only with his time. Few people know that donations and thank you letters were sent to medical staffs even before it became the right thing to do during this pandemic. On the last night with us, Eddie went full circle and ended with the only person he ever wanted in his life, his wife Alba. Alone in the hospital room, he sang to her as she cuddled him in her arms until he took his last breath. Eddie left us to join the many members of his family in heaven, especially his younger brother Carlo, that was called to God's house just the previous day. We will miss you, Eddie. Go watch over Alba and all of us, your family, your friends, your neighbors, because you loved and touched every single one of us. Rest in peace, Eddie.